Hello, and welcome to Beyond the Deal, a podcast where we go deeper than the numbers and talk about what leads to success in life and business. I'm your host, Michael Wagman, and I raise capital while I travel around the world full time. Today on the show, my guest is Lauren Brychell. She is a capital raising consultant. She previously comes from the world of self-storage, where she's raised over $55 million in retail capital. And today she teaches other people how to be more successful in their capital raises. And this is a really cool episode because I selfishly use it to pick her brain about how to be better at raising capital. So if this has ever been of interest to you, you're definitely going to want to tune into this episode. Before we get into it, however, I'd like to thank the sponsors of today's show, myself, Nimble Capital Group. We are a boutique investment firm who provides a variety of different investment opportunities for passive investors, whether you're looking for passive cash flow, equity appreciation, or tax depreciation. And secondly, if you are interested in learning how to raise capital, you could actually reach out to me via the link in the show notes in the description below, and I do one-on-one private coaching. You can also reach out to Lauren if you need help with a pre-existing capital raise. All right, let's get into today's show. Lauren Brychell, welcome to the show. So glad you're here.
Thanks so much, Michael. Excited to be here today.
Beautiful, beautiful. So thank you again. And for those of our listeners who don't know anything about you, why don't you give us a quick intro as to who you are and what you're doing today?
Absolutely. So as you mentioned, I'm Lauren. I am the founder of Equity Elevated Consulting. And I spend my whole life and have spent most of my career around capital raising space, raising capital for commercial deals. And now I have Equity Elevated, which teaches people how to raise capital, how to set up their tech stacks, how to market their deals, how to bring more investment dollars in. And so it's been really rewarding. I've gotten to see all kinds of different deals over the years, and it's a blast being in this industry.
So what was your introduction to capital raising? How did you find yourself in this space?
Yeah, so it was kind of accidental. I was really lucky to be picked up by a large self-storage firm pretty much really early on in my career. I had no idea what capital raising was. I had a marketing degree. They originally hired me for marketing. And then really quickly into that role, they said, hey, you'd be good at investor relations. And I was like, well, I don't even know what that means. And so luckily I had a mentor there who really schooled me up on what it means and why investors invest and how these deals can change people's lives and their financial health, right? And so I just got lucky. I was at the right place in the right time in the right firm, and they taught me everything I needed to know. And then I grew from there and spent about 5 years as a full-time capital raiser and then branched off on my own.
And so for the majority of your capital career, have you been focused on the self-storage asset class?
Yes, for the majority. Mm-hmm.
Got it. And for our listeners who don't know, do you mind giving us a quick little breakdown as to why self-storage? What are the advantages there?
Yeah, so self-storage is a great asset class because it's pretty recession resistant and people need to store items during economic upturns and downturns because of life events. So death, divorce, downsizing, different types of life events that would have people moving their stuff into storage, whether it be short-term or long-term. Also, a lot of small businesses use storage. And so it's a great asset. And yeah, it's nice. There's no tenants, no toilets, and it kind of rides with the market. So it's a good spot to place some cash if you're looking for some consistent cash flow.
Got it. Great. So let's go back to the beginning a little bit here. And you said you had a mentor who identified that you would be very good at capital raising. What was that sort of transition like? How did you find, your first investors? How did those conversations go? What was that like for you?
Yeah, so it was obviously very scary to talk to investors the first time, especially when I didn't really feel confident in what I was talking about. And so before I started talking on the phone with investors and really raising that capital, I was mentored on, okay, here's the deal structure. Here's why people invest. Here's what an IRR is. All of the different things you have to think about when you don't come from a finance or real estate background. And so it was a big learning curve, but I really enjoyed it. I found it really intriguing that, oh my gosh, there's a whole nother world out here that people are investing in that I had never heard of or had no clue that this existed. And it just opened my eyes to wealth building and saw it through a different lens. And so when I was able to talk to investors, I really did take an educational approach. And I was really passionate about figuring out, okay, why are you looking to invest? Are you looking to grow your passive cash flow so you can retire earlier? Or are you a high paid W-2 and you love your job, but you need those tax benefits? So I loved figuring out the pain points. I loved hearing people's stories. I loved educating them on this new world that I had just found out. And now I'm able to share that with them. Right. So it really became fun for me. I'm very outgoing. I'm a big people person. And so having those conversations started to come naturally down the line after we got over the technicalities of what this all meant. And so finding investors was different and challenging. But I think the thing is, it doesn't matter who you're talking to. You could always potentially be raising capital, right? You meet someone on the airplane, or you go to the country club and you play golf with somebody. There's always people out there that have capital. They're looking to invest. And so once you just start talking about it and you're comfortable, going out in the open and sitting next to a stranger at the bar and saying, hey, here's what I do. What do you do? That kind of thing. It makes it a little bit easier. So it's just a fun thing to talk about.
Well, I couldn't agree more. I mean, that's basically what I've built my life around. So I am selfishly going to, I'm going to pick your brain here a little bit about all things in and outs of capital raising. So before we get there, though, you worked for this company for 5 years and then struck out on your own, right?
Yep.
Can you walk us a little bit through that transition? What was your mindset at the time? What was it like becoming an entrepreneur for the first time? And what was the difference?
Yeah. So I had a degree in marketing and entrepreneurship. So growing up with my dad being an entrepreneur, I knew I always wanted to start my own company. I just didn't know what and when and where. And so finally I had an idea one day because I saw a niche in the marketplace. After so many different firms that were trying to raise capital would meet me at events and they'd ask for advice and they'd say, how are you doing this? And, oh my gosh, can you help me? And I thought, there's really not a firm out there that has the experience doing this, that's going internally to these other firms raising capital and implementing these tactics and strategies for them. And so that's when I was like, you know what, there's a niche here. I'm going to go fill it. We'll just see what happens. And so I had faith that I had a great idea. I knew there was going to be demand in the market for it. Obviously, it was really scary jumping off, especially because I had a great position already. And I just put the faith into myself, and I knew I was going to have to work really hard and network a ton, but it would all be worth it. And sure enough, it was. So far, it's been really rewarding. It's been just over a year now, and I am so glad I did it.
Awesome. So your current role, you would describe yourself as a capital raising consultant, correct?
Correct.
All right. So what are the biggest mistakes right now that you see newer or even more experienced capital raisers making?
Yeah, so the couple biggest mistakes I see are not following up with new leads enough, or not keeping your existing database warm in between deals, or just warm in general. So I see folks having new leads come in, they might call them once, maybe twice, and then they kind of let them fall off because A, they get busy, or B, they don't have a good follow-up system, or it gets overwhelming. And so having that consistent cadence of following up, keeping them warm. You're going to have to call them 4, 5, 6 times, text, email, whatever that looks like, reach out that many times to be able to get them kind of schooled up and in the door. And so I think that's one of the biggest mistakes is folks don't have that in line, and they don't have that all set up or organized to where it's achievable, especially if they don't have an investor relations team. So that's number one. And then the second one I would say is a pitch deck or a website or both that's not optimized, and they're not meeting market standards of all these other firms that they're going up against when people are looking to invest their dollars, right? So there's 10 different multifamily opportunities available to someone at any given time with a click of a Facebook ad, right? And so how are you setting yourself apart? Are you making sure your pitch deck is in line with not only the branding standards and looking like a professional deck, but are the projections in line? And what else are we looking at? So I would say that those are the most important things that I see lacking kind of right off the bat.
Got it. So yeah, here's where we go. This is straight into my world. And, some of our listenership may be thinking about raising capital. I certainly have quite a few students of my own who I teach how to do this. So I want to jump back to what you just said about calling leads 3, 4, 5, 6 times. How do you ride that line between, hey, this person came to me, they put up their hand and said, I'm interested in what you're offering, but now I feel like I'm chasing this person down and they won't give me the time of day. What is your thoughts there? What are your best practices? How do those conversations go?
Yeah. And it's exactly that. It's having that mindset of, oh gosh, I feel like I'm chasing them. I'm bothering them. I'm looking desperate, calling them so many times. But, the way that I look at it is, again, they have a lot of competition. So if someone finds you on a Facebook ad, for example, they're probably entering their information on 3 or 4 different Facebook ads in the next 5 or 10 minutes. And so they're constantly inundated with different firms reaching out. And so they might not answer phone on the first call. They might not answer unknown numbers, and they might not listen to their voicemails. So then, okay, how are you going to reach out to them, right? Are you still going to tell them that you're interested in talking further and learning more about them, and that you're an attentive firm looking to build that relationship with them? So, I think calling every day, 5, 6, 7 days in a row is not okay. I think that makes you look super desperate. I think it's all in the approach, right? If you're calling 4, 5, 6, 7 times over a month, I think that's absolutely okay. Or reaching out to them over a month. But I think it's all in the approach. It's all in the message. Really, the most important thing to do for these folks is to let them know that you're there. You're keeping top of mind with them when they actually have time to go back. Maybe they're traveling that week. Maybe, they had a busy work week, whatever it is, and they can't get back to you. So letting them know, hey, it's next week. I'm still here. I'm still interested in chatting. I recognize that you came through and let's talk. It's going to be big. So not everyone can talk in the first day or two. They're going to have to kind of go down the line there. And keeping up with them over that time period will make a difference again if they're busy that week, or if they've forgotten about you because they were talking to another firm and then they said, I don't really like them, but gosh, what was that other firm I reached out to, right? So spreading out that engagement over a longer period of time and just being consistent so that you're keeping in the back of their mind is the most important thing.
I couldn't agree more. As somebody who used to run a lot of Facebook ads and spend a lot of money every single month on meta ads, I'd speak to these people and they'd be like, who are you? I just put my information in, to 3 of these things. And when you put your information into one, you're going to get followed around the internet basically for the next month or so by every other operator who's got to deal with the exact same metrics. Every multifamily deal you see is going to have a 2x equity multiple on a 5-year hold and a 17 IRR and a 7% cash on cash. And they're all going to look the same. So you need to be able to craft something about you that makes you unique and different and interesting and frankly unforgettable comparatively, right? Like, how do you stand apart in today's age? So what would be your advice to sort of those capital raisers? Maybe they're first time advertisers, or maybe they're just somebody trying to raise capital for the first time. How do they set themselves apart from everybody else who's got to deal with the exact same return metrics?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think it's a couple of different things. I think one, it's being true and authentic to yourself and your message, right? So if you are someone who wears a suit every day, show up in a suit and be you. But if you're someone who wears a t-shirt, just own it, rock it, go wear your t-shirt, and don't pretend to be an institutional firm if you're not, right? So own what you've got. Brag a little bit about what you've done. If you've got an amazing track record and you've been in the business for 18, 20 years and you have 30, 40 exits, talk about that, because that definitely sets you apart from your competition who's only been in the game for 5, 10 years. So talk about those different things that will set you apart, that show that you have the experience, that you have the track record, that you know how to mitigate risk, that you know how to take them out and turn it full cycle with projected returns that turned out the way you wanted them to, or maybe even better, right? So talk about those things and don't be afraid to brag a little bit. And then I think really honing in your messaging to your specific avatar is important as well. A lot of people make the mistake of having too general of messaging. They're trying to spray it out anywhere and everywhere to anybody who will listen. And that doesn't work as effectively as picking 1 or 2 avatars and speaking directly to them and their pain points and the buzzwords that they want to hear to move them forward down the line. So I think those are my top tips.
Yeah. So I'm going to be a little contrarian here. I, for the longest time, did not have an investor avatar. And it worked out well for me for a while the market was good. Pre-2022, when you couldn't miss and everybody was raising capital like there's no tomorrow, it worked out great. And I didn't need an investor avatar at the time. I was running ads on Meta and I would just cast the widest net possible. And I figured, if they're interested in investing, if they've got, if they're an accredited investor, if they've got 50,000, I can talk to them. I can relate to them. I can convince them to invest in my deal. And that worked out great for a while. But then the market changed, right? In 2022, and everything is different now. So I've certainly found that an investor avatar does help now. But can you walk us through how you go about identifying your investor avatar, or how you would do that, for example, for your prospective client? And, what are the sort of things that you want to be looking out for there?
Sure. So there are a couple ways that you can figure out who your investor avatar already is or who your ideal avatar would be. So say that you've been working with friends and family capital and you're like, gosh, I really want to grow and scale my network, but I don't know where to start because it's just friends and family right now. So you can look at, okay, what are the traits of these friends and family that are investing? Or maybe the friends are referring other friends, and kind of what does that network look like? And do you like that type? And do you want to go after more of them, right? So looking internally to who your investors already are, doing a deep dive on your top 5, 10 investors, really studying them. What do they do? Where do they live? What is their income level? What kind of issues are they trying to solve by investing? Is it the tax? Is it the cash flow? Whatever that is. And then really study them and then build out your persona around that. Or if you're, say, a doctor who got out of W-2 and you're going into real estate now, maybe your avatar is doctors because you know how to speak to them. You know where to find them. You know what their pain points are and what would get them to invest in a deal, right? You know, the buzzwords that they're looking for. So you can look at your past self, or, you can say, okay, who am I? And who do I relate to? Who do I talk to? And so you can really dive deep into, okay, Lauren's avatar, likes to play golf and go to yoga and travel. And why do I want to invest? It's because I want passive cash flow, because I want to retire early. And so I can build an avatar, like a fake avatar, based on myself. And then I know how to speak to other people like me. So that's another way to do it. And then the final way to do it is, again, just kind of shooting out there and saying, who do I want to work with? Maybe I really understand how engineers talk. I know that they're really data driven and they love the facts and they love to dive deep into due diligence and the risks. And I like talking to that type of person because I relate with them. That kind of goes back to another example, but you can kind of pick and choose that way as well. So there's a couple different ways, whether you're looking internally, looking at your circles currently, or looking at your past life of where you played and you understand. It's an easy way to go about it.
So you said a couple of things, and even going back to your previous response, I think you said that 5 years would be like a newer investor comparatively to somebody who's been doing this for 10, 20 years with a significant track record. What are your thoughts about, let's say, and I can speak from personal experience here because I started raising capital before I turned 30, for a younger 20s person, no track record, wants to get into this industry to raise money, but all of their friends are broke DJs, let's say, and they want to raise capital. They want to take themselves seriously. They want to be speaking to doctors, lawyers, high net worth individuals. How do you go about that? How do you, as a newbie in this industry, maybe a younger person, how do you set yourself up for success in an industry dominated by people who've been doing this very successfully for a long time?
Yeah, that's a great question. And there's a couple ways to go about it, depending on how you're wanting to do deals. But maybe the way that someone in that position should start is to co-GP or to bring in allocations to other GPs to kind of get their track record through other experts doing deals so that they know the deals have a better chance of succeeding. They can have some exits that will be positive. So maybe go that route, partner up with someone with more experience or raise capital for a known firm. That would be great. Or if they're like, hey, I'm doing this on my own, we're just going for it. I think just being honest with your investors about, hey, I don't have as much track record as these people, but here's why I'm going to be determined to succeed here, right? Here's why I can do this. Here's why I know enough about it. Here's why I'm putting my life and my capital on the risk to go forward with these projects. And just being honest and owning it, I think will let investors know that, hey, yes, I'm newer, but here's why I'm serious. And I've taken all the potential risks and the things I need to know that someone more experienced might already know. And here's what I put into place so that I can do this as well. And so I think just owning wherever you're at or partnering up with someone with more experience or finding a mentor, something like that would be the place to start.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And oftentimes in multifamily and really just in general in commercial real estate in this industry, you can't even do your first deal if you're a first timer without somebody on the team who's got that experience. And so you really do need to play off of, their resume. Their resume becomes your resume in order to get the loan, in order to get investors, in order to do all of the little pieces that are required to get your foot in the door. You have to actually partner with people who've been around and done this successfully at least once, I would say.
For sure.
So let's shift gears here and let's talk a little bit about investor success and ongoing investor relations. So let's say you did it. You had to raise $2 million and you got 10 investors, 200K a piece or whatever, and you got it. Now, everybody's in the deal. And as I'm sure you're aware, the way that a lot of real estate has gone the last 2.5 years has not been according to plan for most operators, right? So what does ongoing investor success look like, in your playbook?
Yeah. So good ongoing investor success looks like monthly check-ins at the very least, whether that's ideally a monthly property update email or portfolio update email saying, here's what happened. Good, bad, ugly, indifferent, whatever it is, be super transparent and consistent with your communications on what's going on the ground level. Investors want to know, what's going on with their capital. Is the asset good? Is it bad? Okay, if it's bad, what are you guys doing to fix it? They want to know that they're in good hands. They want to be able to sleep at night knowing that you guys are in control of the situation. Again, good, bad, or indifferent, right? So that's number one. Number two is keep in touch with your investors monthly if you can, right? Call them, text them, check in on them so that every time you're calling them, you're not calling with A, bad news, or B, to ask for more money. That's going to be really important to your long-term game with them, to have them reinvest, to build that relationship and that trust, to get more referrals. And whenever you're talking to them, write down details in your CRM. Are they going on a big vacation this summer? Are their kids graduating college? Where are they at in life? And put these details that they tell you down, write them down somewhere so that next time you call them, you can ask them about it. That just helps build that relationship even faster. But I think, personal touch points, check-ins more frequently than not are great. Monthly communications at the very least. And then if your investors are local to you, invite them to coffee, lunch, throw a happy hour so they can meet each other. Something to build that community engagement and have that face-to-face in-person time will really be helpful as well.
Absolutely. There is really nothing more powerful in this game than the face-to-face and the deep relationship building, the power of referrals. Everything about raising capital is people will invest with people who they trust. If you put yourself in the investor's shoes and say, wow, I just filled out something on the internet. I don't know this person. I've never seen them. They're calling me up on the phone and they're asking me for 50,000 or 100,000, right? What is the likelihood, if you were that person, that you would just fork it over after one phone call and you've never, you can't verify that this person who they say they are, you've never seen them in person, right? So for me, right, in the age of Zoom, that is a lot easier than it used to be, right? And in the age of content marketing, you can put out a lot of stuff to actually at least get investors to consistently hear your voice, see what you look like, see the kind of things you say, and inform that relationship of trust. But absolutely, I couldn't agree more. And going back to the avatar conversation, we actually have an office now in downtown Phoenix. And basically, our avatar at this point is locals, because hey, if we can meet you, shake your hand, take you to coffee, take you for golfing, that's power. Right? That's how you really form true relationships. And so that's kind of the angle that we are going down now for our investor avatar. We've talked a lot today so far about raising money and investor success and everything, going according to plan. But as the journey of an entrepreneur is not for the faint of heart. Right? It is tough. And in this podcast, we always like to go a little deeper. We like to go beyond the deal, if you will, and talk about some of the trials and tribulations that led to this. So can you tell us about a really significant turning point or a challenge that you've had to overcome as you've transferred from being an employee to an entrepreneur and finding success now?
Absolutely. Yeah. I would say there have been lots of challenges and lots of things to learn and grow from and work through. But if I had to pick one challenge, I would say, for me personally, it's been really just forecasting income and making sure that all your expenses are covered and really looking deep and putting your accountant hat on and saying, okay, I'm making this much this month, but I need to save this much for taxes. And then if I have this huge expense coming up next quarter, I need to prepare for that. And that wasn't something that I really thought through, I guess, before I started this company. Obviously, I thought about it, but in doing it in practice was different. And you always pay more in taxes and fees and everything else than you ever thought you would. So the biggest lesson I learned was always just save way more than you expect to out of your income and save that away for a rainy day, because you're going to for sure get a big tax bill that you won't see coming. So honestly, that's been the biggest learning lesson for me and thankfully I did save, but it's just, I was not expecting that. And so anyone starting their own company, just know that I save a large chunk for all that overhead.
Yeah, absolutely. So actually, here's a question that I like to ask every entrepreneur that I speak to, regardless of if I'm on the podcast or not. I always ask this question. How do you sleep?
How do I sleep? I sleep really well once my email's cleared at the end of the night. That's the most important thing for me. I don't want to have any investor or client or any inquiries or questions or anything in my inbox that has not been answered. And if it's a clear inbox at the end of the day, I can sleep really well. I go to bed.
But you don't wake up in the middle of the night with a business idea about such and such thing that you need to be doing and that you forgot to do.
No, I get most of my business ideas and wild, crazy hairs when I'm flying around on airplanes. That's when I really have a lot of clarity.
Got it. First of all, that was an amazing tip, which is clear your inbox before you go to bed, right? So listening here, tip number one, right? But what are you doing these days to maintain a balanced lifestyle, to maintain your health physically or mentally as you are an entrepreneur and you're responsible for every single element of income that comes into your life? What are you doing?
Yeah. So honestly, the number one thing that I'm doing, other than really putting the focus on my diet and exercise habits this year, is not taking on more work than I can handle. Obviously, yes, I want to bring on more clients all the time. And if I know that I can't bring someone on without giving them a great experience, or if I'm working 80 hours a week at that point just to keep up with the demands, I know that's not going to be a healthy balance for me personally. And I know that I still like to have a life and I like to go to yoga and have time to make a nutritious dinner at home and all of that. So I really keep my work life in check and not take too much on that I can't handle, just to keep my own internal peace, to keep clients happy, and to just not be too stressed out. That's one thing. If I took on way too much work where I knew if I wasn't working 80 hours a week, I couldn't get it done and I'd have upset clients, then I definitely wouldn't sleep at night. My client workload is a big tip there and I know that I don't want to go over that.
Absolutely. So speaking of workload, so you are essentially a one-woman show at this point. Do you have any intention of scaling? How do you see the future of what you're working on right now?
Yeah, so definitely scaling. I hired my first project manager 2 months ago, which is exciting. And that's been fun to kind of bring that first employee on and learn through those different challenges as well on how to best manage and keep culture up and everything else with a small team. But I would love to bring on 1 or 2 more folks by the end of the year. I've got some really exciting projects in the works right now. And yeah, would love to grow and scale and help more people raise more capital. That's the goal.
Perfect. Well, I can't think of a better segue to end this. Why don't you tell the people where they can find out more about you?
Sure thing. So equity-elevated.com, or you can email me at lauren@equity-elevated.com, or I'm on all the socials just under my name. So looking forward to hearing from you.
Perfect. Thanks so much for being here, Lauren.
Thank you so much.
That's a wrap for today's episode of Beyond the Deal. I hope you got some valuable insights that you can apply to your own investing journey. Now, if you've enjoyed this conversation, do me a favor, hit that follow button, leave a review, and share this episode with somebody who you think could benefit from it. It really helps the show grow and bring on even more incredible guests. If you want to go deeper, make sure to follow me on your socials. You can find the links in the show notes in the description below. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you next time. Until then, keep going beyond the deal.